Iran might be taken down tonight. Trump had made it clear yesterday and even today. So let's watch this clip.
The entire country could be taken out in one night, and that night might be tomorrow night.
This is no longer a warning, this is no longer a delay, and this is definitely not the same situation you saw just a few days ago. Because right now, as you're watching this, the world is closer than ever to a major escalation between the United States and Iran. And the biggest reason, Donald Trump has just issued what he's calling his final deadline. No extensions, no second chances, no more waiting. And the scary part is, this time, everything around it has changed. The language is stronger, the military activity is higher, the economic impact has already started. And behind the scenes, there are signs that both sides are preparing for something much bigger. So if you watched my last video, forget that version of the story, because what's happening right now, this is the update that actually matters. Let's break down exactly what just happened. Donald Trump has now officially told Iran that they must reopen the Strait of Hormuz and comply with US demands by tonight. But here's the key difference from before. This time, he's made it clear there will be no extensions, and in the past, we've seen deadlines come and go. We've seen warnings that didn't lead to immediate action. We've seen pressure followed by negotiation, but now that pattern looks like it's over because Trump has escalated both his tone and his threat level. He's no longer talking about limited strikes. He's talking about large-scale devastating consequences that could target critical infrastructure across Iran, power grids, transport systems, oil facilities, and potentially more. And when you combine that with the fact that this deadline is being described as final, you start to understand why this moment feels so different. Because now, it's not just political pressure anymore, it's a countdown. Now you might be thinking, okay, we hear these kind of strong statements before, why should this one even matter? And that's a fair question, but here's why analysts are taking this one very seriously. Number one, the consistency of messaging of the last 24 to 48 hours. The language coming from Trump and his administration had been unusually direct. Number two, the military buildup. This isn't just talk, there are already signs of increased military activity in the region. More movement, more positioning, more readiness. And number three, the economic reaction. Markets don't wait confirmation, they react to risk. And right now, the risk level has jumped massively. Oil prices are rising fast, investors are shifting their positions, and global financial systems are starting to prepare for possible disruption. So when you put all of that together, this doesn't feel like another warning, it feels like a turning point. Now let's talk about Iran, because their response is a huge part of why the situation has become more complicated and not less. Instead of simply agreeing to the demands, Iran has come back with something completely different, a much broader proposal. They're not just talking about reopening the strait, they're talking about a full long-term deal, an end to hostilities, the lifting of sanctions, reconstruction, and more permanent solution to the conflict. Now on the surface, that might sound like progress, and in some ways it is. But here's the problem. From the US perspective, it doesn't solve the immediate issue. Because Trump's focus right now is short-term compliance, reopen the strait, stabilize the situation, then talk. But Iran is trying to flip that approach. They want the bigger deal first, and that difference in priorities, that's exactly what's causing the deadlock. Because both sides, technically, they're negotiating, but they're negotiating two completely different things. To really understand why this situation matters, you need to understand one thing. This isn't just about politics, it's about control of one of the most important choke points in the world, the Strait of Hormuz. This narrow stretch of water is responsible for transporting a massive percentage of the world's oil supply. And right now, it's under pressure. With Iran restricting or threatening access, global supply chains are at risk. And that's why the US response has been so strong. Because this isn't just a regional issue, it's a global one. If the strait remains blocked or unstable, it doesn't just affect one country, it will affect everyone. Fuel prices, they will go even higher, shipping costs increase, supply chain gets disrupted, and economies around the world will feel the impact. That's why this situation escalates so quickly, because once energy supply is involved, everything becomes more urgent. And we're already seeing that impact. Oil prices have surged past levels that immediately raise concerns among economists. And the reason is simple, uncertainty. Markets hate uncertainty, and right now there's a lot of it. If the Strait of Hormuz stays restricted, price could rise even further, and that would have a knock-on effect across the entire global economy. higher fuel costs, higher transport costs, higher food prices, and increased pressure on households. Even in the UK, this matters because energy prices affect everything, from petrol at the pump to the cost of groceries to the overall cost of living. So while this might seem like a distant geopolitical issue, the reality is it could hit much closer to home than people actually realise. Now here's something that doesn't always get enough attention. This isn't just a situation that might escalate, it's already escalating. There have been reports of increased airstrikes, missile exchanges and targeted operation, and in some cases these actions are being described as the most intense since the conflict began. And that's important because it shows that while leaders are talking, the situation on the ground is already moving, and that creates a dangerous dynamic because when military activity increases during negotiation, it raises the stakes, it reduces trust, and it makes it harder to step back, which is why moments like this are often the most unpredictable. At the same time, this situation is becoming more controversial. There are growing concerns about civilian impact, report of casualties, damage to infrastructure, and this is where the situation becomes more than just a strategic conflict. It becomes a global issue because now other countries are paying closer attention, international organizations are reacting, and public opinion is starting to shift. Some are supporting strong actions and others are warning against escalation. And that divide is important because global pressure can influence decisions, especially when the stakes are this high. Right now, everything comes down to timing. The deadline is approaching and the next 24 hours could determine what happens next. Because once that deadline passes, there are only a few possible outcomes. Either Iran will comply or they don't. And if they don't, Trump has made it very clear that there will be consequences. That's why this moment feels so intense, because we're not looking at a long-term situation anymore. We're looking at something immediate that's going to happen in the next 24 hours. Something that could change very quickly. So let's break it down simply. There are three realistic scenarios from here. So the first one that we have is Iran, they agree to reopen the strait, tensions ease and the markets will stabilize and negotiation, they will continue. Then number two, partial agreement. So some concessions are made, but not enough to fully resolve the situation, which means uncertainty continues. And number three, escalation. There will be no agreement, deadline passes, and a large-scale military action begins. Right now, all three are still possible, and that's what makes the situation so unpredictable. If you've been following this story for a while, you will know that we've seen tension before. We've seen threats, we've seen deadlines, but this moment feels different because everything is happening at the same time. Strong language, military activity, economic impact, global attention, and a clear timeline. And that combination is rare. And when it happens, it usually means something big is about to happen. So here's where we are. We're in a holding pattern, waiting for a decision, waiting for a response, waiting to see which direction the situation goes. And the truth is, nobody knows for sure what's going to happen next. But one thing is clear. This is one of the most important moments in this entire situation so far, because the next move could change everything. So stay alert, because the moment something changes, you're going to hear about it everywhere. And when it does, I'll break it down for you straight up. No noise, no confusion, just what actually matters. And trust me, this story is far from over.